You can't do this to me. I'm dying. I don't need a view. I need Gail. To see her face, please. Please let that be the last thing I see.
October, it seems so far out of reach. I'm not broken, but who else could I be in a time like this? I'm lost out at sea. But who else could I be? It's not over, and it never was for me. If I'm not yours, then who else could I be? You're moving on, and I'm drowning in memories.
Do your final moments with someone define your relationship with someone? It's a question that Ellie is asked indirectly by Gail, to which Ellie adamantly objects with,
"But your final moment with someone doesn't define your whole time with them."
It shouldn't, but it often does.
Ellie to some degree is being truthful here. Ellie's final moments with Joel don't define her relationship to him, but her relation to him. That's a different story. It's important to distinguish relationship and relation because it puts into perspective how she acts. Ellie understands her relationship with Joel was very messy and oftentimes complicated, but her relation to him was completely redefined. It prevented a toxic takeover to some degree. She still would do anything to avenge him, and she does in turn eventually lose herself as she pushes herself mentally more and more for revenge. But it does mean that she's a bit more critical of her own actions and the things that Joel has done.
After October, after you, after it's over, after October.
At times, Ellie seems to almost question why she's even doing them, only for another character like Dina, who isn't privy to the whole truth of what Joel did, to actively push Ellie forward and convince her she's doing the right thing.
This is what matters. Whatever reason Joel gave those people to do what they did, he didn't deserve that. And I think, what if I hadn't snuck out? What if my mom and sister were beaten to death in front of me? What if that motherfucker made me watch as he did it? Would it make a difference if my family had hurt his people first?
Dina asks this question, but doesn't give Ellie time to ponder its implications. She answers it for her, plainly and quickly.
No. No.
The dialogue is direct, but the expressions are abstract. Dina asks these questions to Ellie, but answers for her. Dina's face seems to almost be grappling with the decisions that she made in that moment, but Ellie is never allowed to speak during this scene, except for approval in Dina's actions.
And if I hadn't killed him, if he had gotten away, I promise you, I would have hunted him down forever. Forever.
The complexity here is so interesting because Dina knows morally her actions here are gray. She did something to some degree she regrets, but she knows it's the only thing that emotionally would have allowed her to continue forward. Let's look at a microcosm for this thought process. Ellie and Dina enter the music store seeking shelter for the night. Ellie enters the store with a happy expression, but as she goes up the steps, that expression drops, and we learn the truth that this expression she's carrying around Dina is fake. Let's go on a bit of a side tangent real quick. Does this expression make Dina feel better? Does Ellie think it makes her feel better? Is it actually for Ellie? Is she hoping that if she acts happy enough, she will eventually just be happy? It's important to mention that though Dina and Ellie are friends, they seem a bit more distant this time than they are in the game. It's obvious that Ellie has a crush on Dina, and Dina knows it.
I'm sorry it took so long. I knew how you felt about me.
But because Dina's mom told her,
When I was little, I told my mother I like boys and I like girls. And she said, no, you like boys.
this is what prompts that distance between Ellie and Dina. She was scared to associate too closely because to do that would mean to align with values or traits her mom disagreed with. This is what happens when your relationship with someone is defined by their passing. You start to cling on to certain ideas that they had of you and present yourself as they would want you to. This is why she keeps going back to Jesse.
And it just... I got stuck. Even after she died, I tried to make things work with Jesse because I like him. I do. I think he's a really good guy. But he wasn't the one. Still kept trying anyway. Couldn't let myself just be.
Because being with Jesse lets her slip back into the version of herself her mom would approve of. In short, this is how Ellie is starting to adapt to Joel's death, but his act of lying to her makes it impossible for those traits to entirely take over. She starts to align with the Joel that she met on the road. She is quiet, reserved. In season 1, Joel says,
Taking you with me, there's some rules you gotta follow. Rule 1, you don't bring up Tess, ever. Matter of fact, we can just keep our histories to ourselves. Rule 2, you don't tell anyone about your condition. They see that bite mark, they won't think it through, they'll just shoot you. Rule 3, you do what I say when I say it. We clear?
Yes.
Repeat it.
What you say goes.
She never tells Dina to bring up Joel as a way to be better than him, but she does as much as she can to not bring it up, because she doesn't want to talk about him. This push from Ellie to not get violent and angry also feels to some degree like Ellie trying to make sure she's not pushing away or scaring Dina. Side tangent over, soon this expressionless face is filled with a genuine smile and happiness as Ellie sees a working guitar and she is reminded of the moment she spent learning lessons from Joel. This is where the nuance in Ellie enters the story. She wants to find the people who killed Joel and kill them, but at the same time, it's not like Joel killed a random doctor. That person was going to be able to find a cure. Side tangent real quick. You can and do have a case to blame Joel for every death that happens after he decides to take Ellie out of the hospital because he's responsible for those deaths. However, that doesn't make his choice here right or wrong. That isn't a very interesting question anyway. It can be fun to debate that question, but it boils an action that is so loaded with subtext down to was he right or wrong at the end, which is just not a question the game is interested in asking. More so, I'm not interested in was he right or wrong either. I like the nuance that this decision brings out in his character. I understand why Joel did what he did, but I also understand why the Fireflies are doing what they are doing. For me, it has always been the Fireflies could have tried to make a cure and that would be better than nothing. But don't get me wrong, the Fireflies don't do the right thing here either. Not one of them asks Ellie if she's okay with giving her life to find a cure. So the question that this brings up is not does Joel make the right or wrong choice here? The question is Joel's actions here justified? Can Joel justify those actions to Ellie somehow? Personally, I would argue that killing anyone is wrong and morally speaking very gray. The show does not change this, except for adding the possibility that the Fireflies might have asked Ellie if she's okay with giving her life for the cure. We don't know, but I reiterate, that doesn't make the choices right or wrong, just morally gray. It's not that Joel did a bad thing, he just didn't do a clearly good one either. That's what makes it fascinating. Joel makes a choice that we understand and justifies it to himself and also Ellie by saying,
Yes. And I'll pay the price. Because you're going to turn away from me. But if somehow I had a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
but as Ellie says,
I don't think I can forgive you for this. But I would like to try.
when Ellie says this, she's admitting that she doesn't understand, but she wants him to show her how his choice was justified. She is admitting that though she has been a bit mean to him lately, she is willing to try and understand because she still cares for him. This goes for Joel too. Joel admits to Ellie that he is okay with her walking away from him right now, but that act of admitting that he still cares for her in a way that she doesn't understand, even if they are not talking or addressing each other, is what ironically wins her over. On her way into Seattle, Ellie remembers the guy that she shot and killed in Kansas City. The important thing to note here is that Ellie doesn't actually kill this person, it was Joel. So why does she remember this as her first kill? Because for Ellie, this is her point of no return. That was the moment she pulled the trigger on a stranger. Not someone she hated, not someone she was close to, just another human being trying to survive. The act of violence wasn't fatal, sure, but it is what she internalized as her first real kill emotionally. It feels like her responsibility, and that's why it matters. To understand this, we have to look at how Ellie operates on a physical level. Show Ellie lives by a simple code.
I'm your back, you're mine.
She wants to be remembered as strong, an equal, not a burden, and not a passenger. Throughout her time with Joel, the show never gives her a real opportunity to have his back, but fake moments where she pretends to. She helps him, yes, but Joel always reclaims the protector role. Ellie never becomes his partner in survival. This creates a wound and later a tale that she tells. When Ellie tells Dina about Kansas City, she is retroactively inflating that moment. She needs to believe that she had Joel's back even once. She is rewriting her own memory to fill in the space that she never got to occupy. She wants to become the person that Joel died to protect. But here's the heartbreaking truth. She's trying to repay a debt that she never fully acknowledges, and she's doing it too late. That is why this is so powerful. Ellie isn't just sharing a memory, she is building a myth. She has to create a version of the past where she is enough, because it's the only way where her grief becomes navigable. But beneath that lie is a wound that won't close. She never got to show him. He died the morning after she said,
But I would like to try.
He was beaten to death before she could prove she meant it. And that becomes a broken promise, one that she will carry over the next day or two in order to make it right.
'Cause that's the spark that we need some days. When you're gone, I'll speak your love language. Acts of service and whatever the other four are. at the